Now I know why you kiss her when you baby twister. Baby. Do 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 do. Ah. Do 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 do. Hey. Do 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 do. Oh. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Let's make sure that this YouTube link actually works, because I want to make sure that people can get into my tutorial. No, I think it does work. Yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of latency. Sad. YouTube's low latency mode is a scam. That's for later. That's for later. I don't need to continue working on this at the current moment. Yeah, no, I don't need this for the current moment. Because we care about exceptions. Now, what's the likelihood anyone is going to show up to this? Because I will just teach to an empty class if I need to, but because I don't know if anyone will show up to this. There's a good chance no one will. All that matters is that I do my job. All that matters. Yeah, you said it, Mark. Yeah. Well, at least Yusef showed up. can't expect you all to just instantly appear, so... But you know what? Screw it. I will teach to just one man if I must, or woman. I mean, Yusuf could leave and, I don't know, Sarah or Arya or someone could just show up, but hey, who knows? Either way, you guys have 2 minutes. This is going to be a relatively, like, not feature-filled tutorial. Mancia showed up. Woohoo! We have hope. But yeah, no, this is going to be a relatively light tutorial because it's going to be teaching something extremely basic. Um, that being said, I do have to teach you guys two things. I have to teach you guys what an exception is, how to handle an exception. Uh, oh, I have a third thing. I have to teach you guys how to make an exception because you guys need to be able to do that for one of your assignments coming up. I believe the next assignment, which should go up Thursday or Friday. We're basically taking it one at a time. It is not its time yet. Alrighty. Hello, Haley. Okay. I'm gonna have to call it here. We're gonna have to get going. So let's get our Python on. Indeed. And this is going to be our first technical look at object-oriented, but we are not going to be working with objects. We're going to be working with exceptions. Woo! Yes, everybody loves exceptions. Everybody loves or hates exceptions. I'm putting 2 exclamation points, one before and one after. Do you have office hours after this? Yes, I do. My life is dedicated to this class. Even if I do not have office hours, if you ask on Teams to do a call with me, I will set up a time. I have no life. Alrighty. So, let's talk about exceptions, shall we? I don't know if it's just my laptop or the audio is kind of quiet. What if I do that? Does that help? I don't know if that helps any more, but yeah, I can see my microphone is a bit quiet, and boosting in this program is a pain in the butt, but I will try it. I will see if I can get that working. Come on. Come on. Why is this? Okay, people are saying that that's a bit better. I can apply even more gain if you guys would like that. Like I can put an additional, I think 2 decibels on that might be helpful. I don't know. I don't know if that even did anything. Undo gain. What do you? I mean, I can't see any change. I might have to go even higher. I don't know where the boundary is, so let's try that. Hopefully I'm not too loud now. Hopefully I'm not quiet. Anyways, let's get into tutorial, eh? So, what is an exception? Well, let's give an example first to see what is an exception and why you might want to care. And I'm going to do that through defining a function. And we're going to just simply call this average, right? So what the average is going to do is it's going to take in a list of items, and I'm going to simply return the mean of that list. I'm going to do sum, and I should not call this list because that is a type. I don't want to get into type overflows right now and stuff like that. So I'm going to do sum ls divided by, and that's not the division symbol, length of ls. Now, this seems like a pretty trustworthy function, right? So if I want to do print the no, not sum. If I wanted to do print average, and what is the average of that list? Well, it will do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 565 plus 7. So that would be 575, 581, 582, and then divide that entire number. So let's make sure that this is accurate. And whilst I am double checking the accuracy with a calculator, someone tell me, oh, what if sum is 0? When would sum be 0? Can someone tell me? Then you break math. There we go. Someone said it. What happens if the length of the list is 0? Because that's a good point. What is the average of this list? Well, it's a 0 division error because you can't divide by 0. You're not allowed to have that. Hence, exceptions. There are situations where you want to try to do a calculation of code. However, in the case where something may occur, you may want to do something else. This is very much like an if-else statement. However, try except is designed specifically for if my code breaks versus if being if condition is true. So I could easily have just written if len ls equals 0, return 0. That is something I could completely do. However, what try except allows you to do is it allows you to account for even the things that you don't know. So I could say, whoops, uh-oh, and then what I could do instead was, if I print this now, I get whoops, uh-oh, but now I can do even funkier things. For example, I can pass in a string of, hello. Now, this has a length. There's no longer a division by 0 error. However, there's a different error involved in this. So again, if I remove the try and except block, and I try to run this code, you'll see I will get some sort of type error. Yep, here you go. I can't do string sum. There is no sum of a string. So try except allows you to be absurdly lazy, but what happens if I don't want to be absurdly lazy? What if, because as you guys just saw, I have the case where I want to return 0 if it's division by 0, but I have also the case where it could be anything wrong. Well, what if I specify specifically accept a 0 division error or accept something else? Well, this is kind of like an if-else statement. What this does is it literally goes, if this works, it works. Else, if there's a division 0, return this. Else, return this. Now, this is being oversimplified because, and also, I just went diagonal. But yeah, this is oversimplified because, fun facts, try and accept have 2 more keywords of else and finally. These keywords we will never ask you to use inside this course. You do not need to learn them, and if you choose to learn them, you will have to do them on your own. What we expect is for you to know try, accept specific error, accept generic error. So this is all fun and dandy, except in the situation where what happens if an error doesn't exist for what you want? So, for example, what if I were to move on to a function that I'm just simply going to call def error boy? And it's going to take in some value n. I don't know what that value n is, but let's say, depending on the value of n, I need to do different errors. For example, if n is equal to 82, let's say I need to say that the space station's on fire. If n ever equals 82, some space station suddenly combusts into flames. Well, how do I say that? Because there is no Python raise
fire. Like, there is no fire. No one knows what fire is. Now, raise is a lovely keyword because if the exception exists, you can just throw the exception. You can raise the exception. So I can say, I can raise zero division error, but I can't raise a fire error because there is no fire error, meaning I have to define said fire error. Yes, so try and accept is specifically and only for errors. If and else, you have to specify a condition to be true and a subsequent false reaction. So try if I did if sum, it can still error, and an error isn't false, an error is, well, just that, an error. There's a difference between being wrong and being invalid. Try and accept is for validity of something, when an input has specifications that it has to follow. But how do we raise fire? Since I got slightly sidetracked. Well, what you can do is we can create a class of fire in which takes in exceptions. Now, this is completely foreign. You guys haven't learned that. And that's because object-oriented is much further in the future. However, I do need to teach you guys for assignment 6 how to define your own class. Or, sorry, how to define your own exception. Because this is what we expect when defining your own exception. So now, if I raise fire, so if I do print errorboy82, since that's what caused the issue, I should now get name error exceptions not defined. Did I? Exception. No, exception. You make sure you spell it right, eh? But now, if I throw it, raise, yeah, trace back. It's going through all the errors, and it raises fire. So what you can see here is from my module main, whatever the file is, it has now raised a fire error, so to speak. And additionally, if you really want to be funky, you can do stuff like and ignore this. So this is called being overly funky. You guys will not understand what this means, however, until we actually get to object-oriented, but error message. So what I can do is I can tell the class that now I want it to take in a message and print it out. So argument must be type, not string. Interesting. I think I might have that backwards. Let me quickly Google that, because you guys don't actually have to know this ever, but I want to teach it to you guys mainly because I have a lot of students who, during exceptions, they want to be able to pass in their own messages. Da da da. Da da da. Great. Even Googling it, I didn't find it. All right, we're gonna forget I ever brought it up. I know it's possible because so fun facts. If I wanted to have a custom message, I could also do, I could call the exception class and pass in said message. So there was a fire, and in the terminal, it will say exception, there was a fire. There is a way to get fire to pass to its exception. What does class do again? The worst part is we're teaching object-oriented in either next week or 2 weeks, and object-oriented is what class is. And trust me, it's a lot smoother to teach class with object-oriented. So for right now, all you need to know that this is defining a custom exception. because you guys will need to do this on your next assignment, and I do not know if you will be armed with the knowledge of my tutorial on object-oriented before we ask you to do this. So all you need to know is that by saying class, name, and in brackets exception, you define your own exception that you can raise. Because, like I said, trust me, in either next week or in 2 weeks, we are going to have a much, much more in depth about what classes are. So, this is all nice and helpful, but what's one of the great ways to use exceptions? Because we're going to be given problems where there are exceptions, and Nick has asked us to code a very specific problem, and I'm just going to quickly peek. Takes in a decimal number, returns a string, and base 12. Interesting. So that's all of the information I'm going to come armed with for coding this, and I'm going to ignore Nick's instructions on like what to teach you guys, and I'm going to basically say, well, I think a try and accept should go here, and I think a try and accept should go here, and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and code this. Da 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 da. Off screen. Let's get rid of the terminal. It just takes up space. So def decimal to base, and it appears that it's going to be base 32. Interesting. So what it's going to do is it's going to take in some decimal number, and it's going to return kind of like hexadecimal, but in base 32, meaning it has 32 potential values that it can be equivalent to. And yeah, so what are some potential problems? Well, one really good problem is if n is less than 0. Because similar to hexadecimal, we know that, say, 15 simply equals f in hexadecimal. But what does -2 equal in hexadecimal? Now, I can answer this, it's 1x2, but this is complex. So what we're going to do is if n is equal to 0, I'm going to raise a value error, and I'm going to just pass in the message of n must be greater than or equal to 0. And notice how I'm raising an error. I'm not just going to return 0 because that is in itself an answer. 0 is a valid answer. However, I don't want to give them 0. I want to straight up tell them, you've misused my program. And now, this is where it gets fun. So I want to develop a kind of like an alphabet. So in hexadecimal, you would have a alphabet in which is some sort of dictionary, and it would just be the value 31 and what equivalent. Can you go over what kind of different errors we can get? Okay, yeah, I can go over different errors. So I'll hold off on the alphabet right now, just so I can explain this. What are some different errors that you might need to account for? So what happens if n isn't a number? If type n is not int, well, in that case, I would say that it is best to implement a type error. Now, what this states is that the type of the thing is false. Let's say you're working with a dictionary. So if I have some sort of a dictionary, let's just say this is full. One common thing you guys will do is if key in dictionary or something like that. However, what happens if the key is not in the dictionary, and because of this, the function should stop? One thing you could do is you could raise a key error. Key cannot be found in the dictionary. Wouldn't the raise errors work best if you're dealing with the input? Yeah, that's one of the definite like scenarios where yeah, that shines. But one thing I always praise is in code, you code to the situation you're working on. So if you're type checking inputs, you could raise, you could return. If you are performing a calculation, you can do zero division error. There's uh, uh, I believe there's like a math domain error or something like that. There, there are a bunch of errors, and you're really just going to have to Google different errors. On assignments, we are usually very explicit about what errors we want you to worry about. This is not going to be one of those cases. So, yeah, let's get back to defining our alphabet because you guys need to know how to do base conversions because this is a basic thing. Additionally, while I was doing the dictionary example, I realized it would be much faster to simply define my alphabet like this. So it's characters 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. And because it's base 32, there's 10 items here, and then it would be 26, so there's 36. So I would not include the last 4 digits of the alphabet. Because this is base 32, I do not require W, X, Y, Z. These 4 digits do not make it into base 32. So this is my base 32 alphabet. So yeah, how do we code a function that takes in, so what's a good number? 1242. What is 1242 in base 32? Well, what I would do is I would check of how many times can 32 and then 32 squared and then 32 cubed go into 1242. So what is 32 squared? I don't know off the top of my head. 32 squared is 1024. So the fact that I can subtract 1024 and still have a value, 1242 minus 1024 leaves over 218. I know that there is at minimum one 32 squared value. So did Nick teach you guys binary out of curiosity? So 1010 is the same as saying 2 to the power of 3, 2 to the power of 2, 2 to the power of 1, and 2 to the power of 0, and you just add them up. I want to know if Nick covered binary, because it might not be worth me doing base 32 first if you guys don't even know how to do binary. Okay, so Nick did teach you guys the basics of binary. So if you guys know how binary works, it's the exact same principle for binary. However, it's 32 to the power of n. It's not 2 to the power of n. It's just 32 to the power of n. I didn't mean to go caps. Whoop! Yeah. No. So that's all we're doing here. I just realized it might be helpful to have a function. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. You can put functions inside functions. So if I do decimal to 32, and it takes in some sort of C, and what I can do is I can actually put the alphabet inside here and just return alphabet dot index of C. So as you can see, if I had A is the 10th spot, so therefore it has an index of 10. This will be helpful because it lets me do just straight up division. Or actually, this is for the other way around. I'm on drugs, aren't I? Yeah, I don't want this way. I want if n is less than 0 and or n is less than 31, then we're just going to simply return a value error because, you know, n's outside of the alphabet length. However, if it's inside the alphabet level length, what we're going to do is check if it's between 0 and 10. And if n less than or equal to 0 and n less than 10, if it is, then it's simply these guys, and all we have to do is return the string variant of whatever c is, or I guess whatever n is, because I named it n and c and I went back and forth. I'm an idiot. However, if it's not in these, then clearly it's in these, and all we do is, I can actually not even bother accounting for that and just return alphabet at c minus 10. It's not called c, it's called n. How many times were you guys yelling at me? Yeah, there's no point in storing 0 to 9 because they're just numbers. I can just return the string version of that. Or I could just not have that elif statement. That's up to you. But this converts 31 to v and etc. etc. This auxiliary function is just going to be really helpful, so that way I don't have to keep saying it over and over. So I'm going to have some sort of answer. It's an empty string. And while n is greater than 0, so while I still have a number to destroy, all I'm going to do is I'm going to say s equals, what did I call it? Dec to 32 n mod 32. So I'm going to find out how many times does it divide by 32, and then I'm going to put that at the beginning of n. I just typed ass. Don't report me. And I'm going to do n equals n / 32. So this is what you do in binary, right? In binary, you simply do 2, and you just keep dividing by 2, and you just keep throwing the numbers into the string. It's the exact same thing, but with 32. I find out what's left over after dividing by 32, and then divide by 32. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. This tells me what the character should be, and this tells me what the number is after I've dealt with it. And what do? I return the answer. Now, this is a bit overkill, I just realized, because I check if n's less than 0 here, meaning that I don't have to check it here, but I'm being safe. Also, because I used it as an example, I am curious, what is 1242? Because that got stuck in my head. And if anyone bothered to calculate it out by hand, then you're better than me. And string is not callable. Return alpha. That was not an index. Local variable s. Yeah, it's not called s. It's called ans. There we go. It's a 16q. Apparently. Fun fact. So this is saying that it is the equivalent of saying 32 to the power of 2 times 1 plus 6 times 32 to the power of 1 plus, and then whatever q is as a number. So that leads me to the following question. What is q as a number? Well, I can actually just test that. If I do this, I can find out, 1242 minus this, because I don't know what q is as a number. I don't want to bother trying to calculate that. I'm just going to print this. This is experimentation time, apologies. Q is apparently the number 26. Does that hold up? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Yep, Q is 26. One other important skill is to do the reverse. Base 32 to decimal. This is why I had the stupid index of in my head. This was what I was studying last night to make sure that I could do it for you guys, and like an idiot, I just apparently forgot that I had to do it both ways. So now what I want to do is I want to convert the string 16q back into its decimal form of 1242. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to define an inner function, and it's simply going to be dec to duo, and it's going to take in some string s, and all it's going to do is return dot index of s, and this is just going to be like that. So it's just going to return the index. So if it were q, q is index 26, it will return the index. And then what are we going to do? Well, I equals 0. Nope. Bracket equals 1. You guys should see why I call it bracket in a moment. For char in whatever my string is, right? However, remember, q is the smallest power. It is to the power of 0. Could you go over I'm getting some error. Yep, I'll go over the code in a second. 6 is to the power of 1. 1 is to the power of 2. So I'm going to go for in reverse. All right. I will come back to this. You guys were getting some errors. So these are just basic type checks. So this is the first part. Decimal to 32. I need to take in some integer to base 32. So if the integer is 0 to 9, I'm just returning the string variant of that. So the only things that get into this else statement are the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The only thing that gets into this else statement is 10 being smaller than n being smaller than, and these are less than or equal to's. So if n is 10 to 31, it returns the alphabet minus these guys because I already dealt with them. Then once I've coded this function, so there is also, this should be raise. I don't know how I let that get away. But so once this function is coded, all you do is, while n is still big, you're going to find the remainder after division by 32. So for example, if I do Python mod 32, you can see that there's 26 left, meaning that it is definitely, after dividing by 32, there's 26, which is q. So I'm saying that, hey, here's q, however, I still have the rest of the answer to go. So what is 1242 / 32? Well, that's 38. Now what is 38 mod 32? Well, it's 6. So I throw 6 on there, hence why it was 16q, and I do 38 / 32. I get 1. 1 just becomes 1. I do 1 / 32. I get 0. This while loop cancels now because it's no longer a positive number. Do you guys see that? I just want to see if I keep getting this error. I'm just gonna value error and string. So you're returning a value error here. Your deck to 32 for some reason is erroring. So this function here takes this guy and appends it to this guy. But if this guy errors, then you have a problem. So you need to look at your deck to 32, Monsi, and just verify that your value error isn't being raised. Because for some reason, this condition is triggering true. Because you can't add these together. Okay. Anyways, back to here. It's just -10 because my alphabet doesn't contain 0. So if I do this, I thought I was being fancy. You could do this. If you include 0 to 9, I'm getting 16G. Ooh, Yusef. That's a little weird. If you include 0 to 9 in your alphabet, you don't need to subtract 10. I'm just turn. So if I clear that, if I run the code, ignore that. But you see I get 16q the exact same way because now 0 to 9 is a member of my alphabet. I was just trying to be fancy and show you guys that you could do, if n was already an integer of 0 to 9, you could just stringify it and throw it in. But no, you guys are right. You don't have to include that if you don't want. Anyways, let's get back to this, shall we? So that should be S. That's why this didn't work. So I'm going to reverse the string, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these guys, convert it to a number, and just keep multiplying, or keep adding, right? So I is kind of like my overall sum value, if you want. It's called a bracket in code. You guys would probably more commonly write this as like a kind of like power, but it's not power. It's like, you know how you have the tens column, a hundreds column, and a thousand column? That's called a bracket. So that's why I called it bracket, because that is its technical term. It's just the different columns, the different steps you're in. So anyways, all I'm going to do is do sum value, because I renamed it so it wasn't I. Sum value plus equals deck to, I believe the language of 30 or base 32 is called like a duo or something like that. Or I'm just going to call this translate. I don't actually know what the alphabet's called, so I'm just going to simply call that translate. I'm going to translate whatever my current character is into a digit, and I'm going to multiply that by the column I'm in, my bracket. So the first number is Q, returns 26, multiplied by my current bracket of the ones place. Then I'm going to simply say my bracket equals my bracket times 32, because I've now moved over to the next column, and repeat that. Return some value, because some value is now going to be my number. Does that make sense to you guys? I know the term bracket is really stupid. Also, string has no index of. You're right. It has no index of. It's just index. The only thing I was worried about is using the term bracket for you guys, because I don't know if you have heard of what a bracket is. I don't know if you've heard that technical term. I don't even know if I have that technical term right. That's just how I was taught it. Also, Yusef, did you finish your 16G problem? Did you ever figure out why that was? I'm curious about that. But I have two questions at the same time. But yeah, this is just showing off some different things. You guys need to know how to do these. You guys need to know how to raise. You need to know what errors are. You need to know how to try and accept for errors, which is what we did up here. You guys need to know how to define an error. I'm working on it. I don't want to hold up the tutorial. No. This is all I had to teach you guys. From here on out, I'm actually just meant to answer questions and recover anything you guys weren't comfortable with. I've never heard. I, I I math more than I code. I thought that this was a math term. I know a lot of people just call it a column, but I I swear I've heard someone call it a bracket before. I got it, but it only works in Python Tutor. What version of Python are you running where this doesn't work? Huh. I might be wrong in calling this a bracket too. That might be it, but I could have sworn that this was called a bracket. At the end of the day, you guys know what this is supposed to represent. Like I can rename it to column to make it a bit clearer, but this is just supposed to be the ones column, the tens column, the hundreds column, but for a different base. So this is the 32s column. I'm using Jupyter Hub. Huh. This is the 32s column. This is the 32, or so this is 0 to 31. This is 32 to 63, I think. Is 63 what I think it is? Well, I can actually test that. We have a function to do that. No, I called it a bracket somewhere. Where did I call it a bracket? Here, column. 1v. Okay, it's not 63. I know it's not after, so I really like to go over the midterm. I want to know where I went wrong. Okay, def base 32 to n, def dec duo return. So index of should be index because I made a mistake. It's not index of. Strings don't have index of, they have index. So this is the correction. Fancy. I can come back later. Yeah, the problem with feedback is very much student specific. So I can cover certain things from the midterm. That's definitely going to be what my office hours is going to be related to because I don't have the VPN right now because it makes YouTube unbearable. But yeah, I can't really cover the midterm specifics without covering your midterm specifics, if that makes sense. Because every midterm was unique in terms of where someone done goofed. I more am looking for questions related to exceptions. Like, do you guys want me to cover defining a class again, even though this is all you'll do? This is all you are required to do. Like, I swear there was this thing where it was def init It might be super dot message. It might be something like that. Could you go over try and accept again? I could do that. Defining a class. Again, defining a class as a concept is something we are going to be covering in 2 weeks. Defining an exception was all this was meant to be, and all you guys need to do is class exception name, and then in brackets exception and write pass. That's all you guys need to know for the assignment. You guys are going to learn like what a class is. So for example, we're going to be able to do like class car. You guys are going to learn all this in the future. It just sucks because classes are objects and it's object oriented. But I can definitely cover try and accept again. Try and accept is very similar to if and else. So try is if code works, then do this. It is very much like saying uh, if no error. Like if there were a Python function that said no error and returned just true or false, then you could imagine this as what I wrote. If error equals this, else. You can very much try and picture try and accept like this. If no error, else if error equals zero division error, else return like this. The issue is coding languages already defined what if and else meant to do. So if condition do thing, else do other thing. This is what coding wants. It wants if condition, do thing, else do other thing. Try and accept doesn't care about if condition, it cares about if error. If error, do thing, else do other thing. That's what try and accept is. Does that make sense, Mancy? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Because yeah, you guys do need this for the next assignment. Like, I'm pretty sure 3 of the 5 or 6 questions on the assignment are like just dedicated to exceptions. It's like saying if with no condition. Yeah. The condition is if this works. That's kind of like try to do this. If it works, great. It's good. If it doesn't work, then you start getting into this part. It's Monsi? Is it a E sound or an I sound? Like a literal of the I? Or is it 2 E's kind of? And I swear if you pronounce A like EH, like it's an A sound, I will be baffled. Because yeah, when I said ma, it did sound a bit weird. I get the ah pronunciation. I just want to know if it's E or I, you know? I AE. Uh, what sound does an AE make? Oh God, Mense, Mense, Monse, Monsi. Maybe that's a bit ma. I'm going to give up. I'm not very good at phonetic pronunciations. I have one. I see. I see. I'm I'm giving up. I'm sorry. The thing is, you're saying yes, but I don't know where you're saying. But without the French accent. Are you calling me French? Ho ho ho. I've never had someone be like, yeah, say it again, but slightly less French. That's funny. Yeah. I just need. I'm here for the remaining 2 minutes. If there are more questions, once those 2 minutes are over, I switch over to office hours, and you can come to office hours. I can't guarantee one-on-one though, because if many people are like, "Could you explain why this failed?" I'd be like, "Well, I can, but I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to dedicate this office hour to you for a little bit." I don't know. I might just get a lineup of people, and I don't want to do that, right? All right. I'm thinking that's good for it then. So I'm gonna call it here, guys. I'm gonna switch over to office hours. You guys have the ability to confront me. Apologies. I'm just turning on my VPN now. Yeah. So I will see you guys in office hours if you choose to join me there. Bye. I might actually try this. Hold on. A development has come up and I want to know. Gandhi. No, I don't want to buy a smart what? I clicked on translate and it just was like, yeah, no, this is what you wanted, right? Mons. Well, I will attempt this later on because I'm not finding any of these translators, and I don't trust Google Translate. So, anyways, guys,